Oh yeah! So for step 11, I've pulled together the parts that are going to be needed for this step. But I'm going to do this separately so I don't get confused. If you see this one, this is part A12. But make sure you're putting it on correctly. So if you see this, notice that it's slightly different on either side. You'll notice in the instruction there's a little knob that's below. Well, that obviously corresponds to that knob thing right here. So it's obviously upside down like that, so that you know that that is the part you're putting together. So I'm going to build this one before I go on to that so I don't get myself confused. So let's put on the metal piece first, and I've already started it there. It's notched out, so let's just get that part in. You can see it's sort of notched so it fits in that little plastic spot right there. Okay, so that part is in. Now you can see that you need to put in this part here. And it's going to fit inside there. And then this one here, actually, which I'll do now, we've got to grease it up because this is going to be, this is a moving part. So there has to be something to keep, less friction. So we've got to put some grease on this now. And then this part here, putting it in the way that they say, we're going to make sure that it fits on both sides. Slide it through, which it is. And then we have to screw it because it's only partly threaded. So most of this I could put all the way through, but you can see it's threaded at the top. So you put it all the way in, and then you tighten this because it's the top that's going to be tight. It's only so far it can go, and there it is. So it's all greased and ready to go, and there is one of the uprights for the front suspension, and of course that's where one of your front wheels is going to go. So that's done, and then this is where the other part of the steering servo is going to go and attach to, because there's like a ball thing that's on the top of this that will attach to the servo to give you the steering. So that's one side done, so I'll go ahead and do the other. Okay, so there are the two uprights. They're complete and ready to go. So now we'll move on to step 12, which is the front arms. And you can see this is where we're going to be putting on the little ball screws that will attach to the servo in order for the vehicle to steer. So I'll just get all the parts together. Okay, so let's grab one of these, and again, make sure that you know where the piece is. So this one, if we actually work on this one first, it's not going to be this one, it's going to be this one, because the piece is actually in the right spot. And we're going to feed the screw, and I've got all the pieces here ready to go. I'm going to feed this screw. You need a spacer, which is going to go in there, and this piece here is going to go through as well, and you can see that that's supposed to be greased as well. And I think what I'll do is I'll hold this here while I do that so that we've got it. Okay, and then grab this piece here, and we're gonna turn that around, stick that in there. Okay, so that's fine, but obviously the spacer has to be put into the piece first. It can't go through there. So we're going to now put this in here, then put the screw so that it's on the other side. And then it's one of these plastic guys again, which is interesting. Normally when I'm building these kits, usually these types of nuts are metal. For some reason they're using plastic on this. Just want to make sure that gets a nice fit. Actually, probably the best way to do it is to hold it down and then screw it in from this side. But I can already tell that I'm going to need to use my wrench. So I'll put that on and hold it like this essentially, which I prefer. And then, whoops, start that process again. Stick that in there because it's a nice fit. Takes a bit of doing, but we're getting there. And don't over tighten, because this is plastic. It's not like it's a metal piece, so if you over tighten it, you're going to damage it and then you won't be able to do this. So just make sure it's on there tight, but don't overdo it. And then that's movable. So we're going to do the next one to finish that off. So we're back to greasing this guy up. Gonna have to get my hands dirty on this one, just because not a lot you can do about it. Slip that through. And slip that through. Then we'll slip that through. And then with the box wrench again. Actually, I might just start it. Okay, that at least starts it. And then I can hold both sides. Okay, we're getting to the end. So again, don't over tighten, but at least make it sure that it's nice and still firm. And there you have that part. So that is now in place. And now what we're going to do is put the little ball connector joint onto the arm. So as you can see, if we start with this one, you need the box wrench to be able to put it down. So we're going to take this one and we're going to put it in the box wrench, which you can see it's going to be, that one should fit it because it's the small one, which it does. Okay. And then take this one and start to spin it in. It's going to take a bit of time because it's sort of, you're having to self-thread it. And so it needs to have a nice firm, there we go. I know. It'll have to get a nice firm fit going. There we go. Once it gets going, it'll be fine, but it will take a little bit of time for it to find that link to get in there, right? The threading. And then you just spin it in all the way until that end part reaches the plastic. And again, don't over tighten because it's only going into nylon. So there's the ball. And that's what's going to attach to the steering servo through those arms that we built earlier. So that's going to give you your range of motion. And then these are going to be the pieces that fit on the shocks. So that is step 12. We've now completed the 2 front arms. So for step 13, there's all the screws that we're going to need for it. And we're going to install the bumper. And this piece here, which actually goes in after we've installed the 2 arms. And then you can see here, we're going to still need to grease the arms where they go into the body of the chassis. So I'm just going to put some of this on and then I can show you where we're at. So first off, we need to grease these 2 ends before we can put them in. Just put a little bit of grease on these. Just helps with the friction because it's plastic on plastic. And then that is going to go in there and on there. So you can see how that's more or less going to fit and move. So that's in. Going to do the same thing with the other side. Just going to make sure we get some grease on there. And that's going to slide into there. and onto that piece there, because you can see where it kind of fits into those that little spot. And then what we do now is this piece here gets attached here with tapping screws, and that will hold in these suspension arms. So I'm just going to put those in now. We've got our screws here. And put the other ones in. Just sort of getting a feel for each one before I actually screw this all down. Okay, so with the camera, it's a little awkward, so I'm just going to stop and I'm going to screw these in, and then we'll put the bumper on. So there we have, this brace is now in place. So now these arms are completely attached, they're solid. The grease that's here is just going to help with the friction. And now all that is left is to attach the bumper, which I'll go ahead and do with the 3 remaining screws. So the bumper is now on. So now we have it all in place, the A-arms, servo, bumper. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to step 14, which is attaching the front coil springs to the chassis.